Dear learners and listeners, welcome to this session. The School of Gender and Development Studies in the Indira Gandhi National Open University offering a course titled Gender Sensitization, Society, Culture and Change. The course code of this course is BGSC 001. Today's topic is Gender Division of Labour. This topic is part of the course BGSC 001 Gender Sensitization, Society, Culture and Change. We are going to learn what is gender division of labour, how this gender division of labour related to women's issues, and also how this gender division of labour affecting the women's labour force participation in the market. I am Dr. G. Uma, working as an assistant professor in the School of Gender and Development Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Dear learners, I am welcoming you all to this session. Hope you will listen this lecture and you will come to know the concept gender division of labour. Once again, I am welcoming you all to this session. Let us start with what is gender division of labour, how this concept emerged, and why do we need to understand this concept gender division of labour. So, before we get into the concept gender division of labour, we must understand the concept sex segregation at work. Work in all countries, irrespective of the country is in developed or developing nation, the work in all countries is characterized by a sexual or gender division of labour in which tasks are assigned to workers on the basis of their sex. Like if they are male members, they have given certain kinds of work. If they are female members, they have given certain kinds of work. So, we need to understand the first sex segregation at work. From this, we can easily understand the concept gender division of labour. The sexual or gender division of labour among paid workers is termed as sex segregation. Later part of this lecture, I am going to explain little bit about the sex segregation also. So, the sexual or gender division of labour among paid workers is termed as gender segregation. Thus, sex segregation is the tendency for the sexes to do different kinds of paid work in different settings. It may involve physical, functional or nominal differentiation of work. This definition I have taken from Ruskin, the International Encyclopedia of the Social and Behavioral Science, was published in the year 2001. So, now we know gender division of labour. Let us have an explanation why do the gender division of labour emerged in the society. There are numerous theories on why sex differences exist, like sex and gender. You all must be knowing the difference between sex and gender. So, there are numerous theories explains the sex differences that is existing in the society. Like people who are support biological factors argue that people behave as they do primarily. Like if the male members, they behave in a certain way, if they are in a female members, they behave in a certain way. So, biologically there is a male female difference apart from other genders. So, we need to see this gender segregation of work from this context, that is gender division of labour. Why the emergence of gender division of labour in the society has to be seen from this context. Sex role behavior clearly follows no logical pattern based on biological differences. For example, if the male members in the society, they have assigned certain activities. If there is a female members in the society, they have assigned certain activities. But as a learner, you must understand that the activities assigned to the male and female based on their sex differences or based on their biological differences is having no logical pattern. For example, with regard to cooking, we must understand that both men and women, they can cook and they can wash dishes. But predominantly, if you look at the societies, especially various social structures in a family and other in a family, who will cook? We expect once the child born, either girl or a boy, after growing a certain age, the society tries to socialize girls in a certain way and boys in a certain way, and they expect the girls to perform certain activities. Like the girls, they are supposed to learn all the cooking activities, and when they grow, when the girl child is very small, the family tend to buy certain playthings related to the cooking, like for a gas stove, small vessels, and they expect the girl to play with that utensils, small utensils. Over a period of time, the particular child observe the activities of the mother and the father, and they try to replicate the same thing. But when we think about this role differentiation, we must understand that like a girl child, boy child also, they can cook and they can wash dishes. Here you must understand the another example. Same thing, male members, after they grow, many of the male members, they take cooking as a profession and they earn so much in the market by working as a chef, and many of them, they do course related to the cooking. So when it comes to market activities, male members, they are willing to do cooking and other activities, but when it comes to private sphere and at the family level, they expect the female members to perform certain kinds of activities. Same thing, another example I could able to quote that, like for example, female, they can bear the child and they can deliver a baby, but when it comes to changing the diaper, like a female in the family, men can also change the diaper. But men, what do they think? Men, they think that changing the diaper is a women's work, and but men also, they do possess necessary skills. So gender division of labor basically in a society based on the sex differentiation, certain activities are enforced on the female members in the society, the certain activities are enforced in the male members in the society. Basically gender based role differentiation enforce the gender division of labor at the larger private space also. Whatever the society expects the women to do certain activities in the private sphere from the beginning, that has translated in the public sphere also. Like you can see the best example, for example, primary school teacher or nursing activities. Who will, if you look at the percentage of women joining in the nursing profession, the large percentage of women are part of the nursing profession. Very less percentage of the male members are part of the nursing. So the society thinks that nursing is a extension of the nurturing activities. They are supposed to, in a women at the family level, we expect the women to take care of their children, elders, all kinds of productive and reproductive activities at the family level. So same reproductive activities, the nursing profession is the extension of the same reproductive activities, that is the taking care of the children, women, elderly, and taking care of the entire needs of the all members in the family. It's difficult to explain why the women, they spend lots of time on cooking and washing dishes at the home. We think that cooking and washing dishes is the biological imperative. So gender segregation is a form of social segregation that biology cannot explain. So just because there is a biological difference between the male and female members, the society expects, based on their biology, the society expects the women have to perform certain kinds of activities. Same like men, they expect men to perform certain kinds of activities. I can give you more examples why this gender division of labor is happening in the society. So, in the beginning itself, I have explained the definition for the gender division of labor. So, gender segregation is the chief obstacle facing women who seek to enter the labor force, because the women, we are segregating the labor force based on the biological difference. This is a form of discrimination that has led to gender inequality. Reflect in work as an unequal gender division of labor. It encompasses situations in which there is an unequal division of the rewards of labor by sex. The most obvious pattern in such a division of labor is that women are mostly confined to unpaid domestic work and unpaid food production, whereas men dominate in cash crop production and wage employment. I would like to give one more example in this place. Like if you are a student of women's studies or gender and development studies, you must be heard the feminist economist Esther Boschrup. For the benefit of everyone who are listening in this lecture, I would like to explain little further. So, we are talking about the women due to this division of labor, gender division of labor, women are mostly confined to unpaid domestic work and unpaid food production. Here Esther Boschrup did a study in the African agricultural pattern. Based on her study, she found that in the beginning, mostly the women, they involved in the food production. After the introduction of the modern technology in the agriculture sector, mostly there is a shift in the crop cultivation. So, once there is a shift happen with regard to crop cultivation, most of the male members, they are started producing the cash crops due to the availability of modern technologies in the agricultural activities. After shifting of the crop pattern, crop cultivation pattern, mostly females, it highly affected the food security of the entire family, especially female and the children. Whatever the cash crop produced by the male members in the society, they directly took the cash crops to the market and they sold, and the benefit, whatever the benefit they have got out of this cash crop production, mostly male members in the society, in the family, they try to utilize for their own personal benefit instead of using for the benefit of the entire family members, especially female and the children. So, again I would like to give more reasons for gender division of labor. Usually society witnesses gender division of labor because it operates in a gender term. Any society, if you look at that, the society always operates in a gender terms like male female. They based on the sexual differences the society operates. Here we need to understand the term gender roles. Gender role is nothing but based on the sexual differences between male and female, the certain roles are given to the female members in the society, the certain roles are assigned to the male members in the society. So, society expects men and women to perform certain roles. So, the existence of gender roles can be traced historically. Precedents sanctioned by society exist, like where women are allotted one set of gender roles and the men are allotted another set of gender roles. In all cultures, society has traditionally divided work roles for women and men, even though in the last few decades, gender work demarcations have to a marginal extent changed. Like male members in the society, women are also, they are able to perform many activities and they try to break the glass ceiling and they enter into the many new professions and they could able to prove themselves that they can also perform like a male members in the society. So, women and men commonly perform different tasks and they work in different sectors. In the past 20 years, slowly this trend is changing, but still it is long way to go. Example, here we need to understand why gender division of labor is happening in the society. There is a traditional concept, we all must be heard that the society and the socialization process again and again reinforce that men are breadwinners and women are homemakers. So, that is the another important thing. Third thing is that there is a supply demand mismatch in the labor market and the women always face the certain restrictive social norms. For example, society expects women to perform all the reproductive activities apart from bearing of the child. The society expects the women to perform all reproductive activities like cooking, taking care of the elder, taking care of the children, taking care of the needs of the everyone in the family. So, due to this gender roles and the restrictive social norms, like the women expect to come back, return from the market activities to their home before sunset, like that various social norms. They cannot travel without the support of the male members in the family. Like that there are various social norms existing in the society. The restrictive social norms have had a negative impact on the women, even though they have possessed enough skills like male members in the society. It is difficult for them to enter into the public spaces to work in the labor market. That is the another important thing we need to understand. So, next one is that there is a rigid labor market conditions and structural changes in the economy that push women away from the work. See, here we need to look at the previous points also. There is a supply and demand mismatch in the labor market. Okay. So, this also the another reason for the women not able to enter into the labor market. One more examples I would like to give it to you all. We were talking about the gender roles. Gender roles exist because communities and societies have created social norms of behavior, values and attitudes that are considered appropriate for women and men and the relations between them, that is gender relations between them, and our perceptions of sex differences. For example, I would like to insist again this example, that is we consider childbearing is a female sex role because men cannot bear the child. Although both men and women can rear the children, so but not only bearing the children, rearing of the children also, that duties for rearing of the children also socially assigned to the female members. So, because of these gender roles, the existence of gender roles restricting the women to enter into the labor market. So, here I need to give the how the labor market is categorized. The adult population is generally categorized into those within or outside the labor force. Those within the labor force include all those engaged in economic activities or workers and those seeking or available for work or unemployed. Those outside the labor force are grouped into three major categories. That is, those attending educational institutions, those students are all come into this category. Those engaged in domestic duties in their own homes and other non-working categories such as pensioners, renters, remittance recipients, those engaged in unsanctioned activities, that is begging, and those unable to work, that is too young or too old, like disabled. Another important term we need to understand with regard to gender division of labor is the women's labor force participation. This women's labor force participation varies from country to country. The percentage of women's participation in labor force higher in developing countries and the percentage varies considerably across developing countries and emerging economics. For more in the case of men. So, women's labor force participation in some developed economy that is higher, but women's labor force participation in developing economies like especially in Asian countries, it varies. Even among South Asian countries, the percentage of women in labor force varies from 80% to 27 to 28% from country to country. The rate of female labor force participation in South Asia was just 30.5% in 2013. At the same time, you have to look into the rate of men was 80.7%. Among South Asian countries, as I have already mentioned, considerable diversity in the female labor force participation rate that we can observe in the South Asian regions. We are not explaining the reasons. We are learning little bit about the reasons for low women's labor force participation in India. We are not discussing about other South Asian countries. As I have at the beginning of the lecture, I have explained the relationship between the gender division of labor and females labor force participation. Because of the gender division of labor, like how the male and female has categorized and given certain activities both at the public and private space based on the sexual difference. So, they mostly male members, they expect to do the activities in the public sphere. That is the main reason. Because of this socialization process, the male labor force participation is very high in the countries like in India, and the female labor force participation is in South Asia just 30.5%. Let us see how the India perform in this regard. So, these two terms, female labor force participation and gender division of labor, it is closely related. When we talk about the gender division of labor and the reasons for the gender division of labor, we can, by looking at the percentage of female labor force participation, we could understand that how much the female, they get an opportunity to work in the public spaces. As far as India is concerned, we need to analyze female labor force participation rates in India, and it is like a very interesting analysis. Female labor force participation in India has declined from 34.1% in 1999-2000 to 27.2% in 2011 to 2012, and wide gender difference in the participation rate is also persist as far as India is concerned. We need to note the considerable variations between urban and rural areas. The participation rate of rural women decreased from 26.5% in 2009-10 to 25.3% in 2011-12, while the rate of the urban women increased from 14.6% to 15.5% over the same period. If you look at the even urban women labor force participation is increased just 1%. Female labor force participation rate is estimated to be 22.5% for all ages, a further slump from 23.3% reported in 2009-10, that is NSSO 68th round. In rural areas, we could see the declining trend, and urban areas slight increase in the female labor force participation. Actually, if you look at the 2011-12 data also, it shows that less women in rural areas are working, and we may conclude that if they are working, they may work in subsidiary or marginal employment. See, the data shows that there is a less female labor force participation in rural areas also. But actually, when you look at what is happening in the rural areas, women, they perform and they work in the employment activities, but most of the time whatever the women they do the subsidiary or marginal employment, and their work is not accounted. That is the another main reason that there is a low female labor force participation in rural areas. With regard to urban areas, even though the women And the education, women, most of the women, they get an opportunity to get educated and they are getting their degrees. But still, if you look at the urban areas, the female labor force participation is decreasing. We need to see, even though women, they are willing to participate in the labor market, there are various socio-economic factors to impeding them not to work in the labor market. If you look at the women's educational attainment, most of the women, they perform, they good in education, they complete the schooling and they get into the university level education, they get their degree. Another important factor here we need to note it down is the fall in fertility rates and the age of marriage, economic growth and cyclical effects and urbanization. And these are the important thing. If you look at all these factors, women's labor force participation, it's supposed to increase, but still the women, they have attained in education, they are willing to work in the economic activities. There is a fall in fertility rate, the age of marriage has been increased, there is an economic growth in the country like in India, there is a rapid urbanization. All these things, certainly it has to provide the opportunity for women to work in the labor market, but still the female labor force participation is very low. What is the main reason is that the social norms, the existing social norms determining the role of women in the public domain continue to affect the outcomes. So, because still the society expects the women to perform the certain activities in the private sphere, that is the main reason that the women are not able to perform in the public domain, and the society, the existing socialization process make the male members in the society, they are not willing to share the activities at the private sphere. So, that must be the one reason that low female labor force participation. As far as we need to look at the Indian scenario further, India, there are so many discussions on the following fronts and they have focused 4 important factors. As I have already explained, there is a rising education among young women, lack of employment opportunities, effect of household income on participation and measurement. This is based on the study by the Chowdhury and Varick, Kapsas and Majumdar and Neeta, their study. Over the last decade or so, India has made considerable progress in increasing access to education for girls. Even government has introduced so many policies and programs to encourage the more girls to enroll in the educational institutions, and increasing number of women of working age, they are also enrolling in the secondary schools and university education. The nature of economic growth in the country has meant that jobs were not created in large numbers in sectors that could readily absorb women. Basically, mostly the women in the rural areas, they have skilled in a certain way. So, basically the country, they should create a jobs in a particular sector that could readily absorb the women. That is not happening in the country like in India. Despite inadequate job creations, household incomes did rise due to the economic opportunities. Most of the male members, they could be able to actively participate in the labor market. So, increasing of household income has certainly potentially reduced women's participation, especially in subsidiary activities due to change in preferences. Finally, though most women in India work and contribute to the economy in one or the other form, much of their work is not documented or accounted. This I have already mentioned for in official statistics, and thus women's work tends to be underreported. In India, a substantially high proportion of female report their activity status as attending to domestic duties. So, in 2011-12, 35.3% of all rural females and 46.1% of all urban females in India were attending to domestic duties, whereas these rates were 29% and 42% respectively in the year 1993 to 94. So, mostly the females attending domestic works. Therefore, mismeasurement may not only affect the level, but also the trend in the participation rate. It is interesting to note that significant proportion of women usually engaged in domestic duties reported their willingness to accept work if the work was made available at their household premises. Of the total women usually engaged in domestic duties, 34% in rural areas and 28% in urban areas reported their willingness to accept work, and tailoring was the most preferred work in both rural and urban areas. Among women who are willing to accept work at their household premises, about 95% in both rural and urban areas preferred work on regular basis, about 74% in rural areas and about 70% in urban areas preferred part-time work on a regular basis, while 21% in rural areas and 25% in urban areas wanted regular full-time work. So, what are the challenges here is that first we have to, as a government, they have to develop the inclusive and sustainable work environment. Women continue to face many barriers to enter labor market and to access decent work, and disproportionately face range of multiple challenges relating to access to employment, choice of work, working conditions, employment security, wage parity, discrimination, and balancing the competing burdens of work and family responsibilities. In addition, women are heavily represented in the informal economy, where their exposure to risk of exploitation is usually greatest and they have a least formal protection. Considering these insights, policymakers in India and throughout the region, South Asian region and Asian region, should take a comprehensive approach to improving labor market outcomes for women through improving access to and relevance of education and training programs, skill development, access to child care, maternity protection, and provision of safe and accessible transport, along with promotion of pattern of growth that creates job opportunities. Beyond standard labor force participation rates, policymakers should be more concerned about whether women are able to access better jobs or start up a business and take advantage of the new labor market opportunities as a country grows. A policy framework encouraging and enabling women's participation should be constructed with the active awareness of gender specific constraints that face most women. Gender responsive policies need to be contextually developed. So, worldwide, the proportion of women in managerial and decision making position is very low. The rule being the higher you go, the fewer, the role. If you look at the role of the higher role, there are fewer women. In 1994, Susan Bullock has written that, quote, women make up less than 5% of the world's heads of state, heads of major corporation and top executives in international organizations. Of the top 1000 corporations in the United Nations, 2 are headed by women. Women represent on an average under 10% of members of parliament and 20% of middle level managers, unquote. This trend is pretty much the same today. So, ultimately, the goal is not merely increase female labor force participation, but to provide opportunities for decent work that will in turn contribute to the economic empowerment of women and change the norms related to gender division of labor. So, these are the references. Based on these references, this lecture was prepared. If any one of you would like to read further, you can go through these references, you can understand more about this topic. Thank you.